My name is Chris Clausing. I'm the Director of Government Programs for CEI, and today we're going to be discussing really it's kind of the basic primer for AI. I know it's kind of an overwhelming topic. There's so many different platforms and options and things. So kind of wanted to just open the 2026 with a very basic understanding of what AI is, what it isn't, how it relates to construction industry specifically, and then ways that we can target specific tasks or processes or operations within our business that we can use AI to help increase that efficiency and help build scalability. We talk about scalability a lot. Business growth is one thing, making a business scalable is another thing. Scalability is the infrastructure upon which successful growth can happen. And without scalability, without that infrastructure, growth will turn into a business going out of business very quickly. So we want to make sure that we utilize all the tools that we can. AI is one of those tools. It's not the end all be all answer for everything, but it is an important part of running a business today, especially in the construction industry. And there's a lot of things and tasks that we can target specifically with AI platforms and applications, and not even high cost ones, that can help to make some of these things that we do much more efficient, easier, and actually more accurate. So my email is cclausing@ceihome.com. So feel free to email me with any questions. And also, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. I'm addicted to LinkedIn. So please feel free to connect with me and tag me in any post. Happy to repost anything that I'm tagged in. So with that, we'll go ahead and we will get started. I did also want to say that the chat is open. Make sure it's open to everybody here. Should be open to everybody. So yeah, so now if you put any questions in the chat, I'll be able to see them and answer them as we go through. Or you can just unmute. And if you have questions on things that we're talking about in that moment, feel free to get my attention, and that's totally fine as well. So a couple things here on the agenda. So we're just going to introduce some of the core concepts of AI. So again, this is kind of a primer for some additional AI courses we're going to be doing later in the year. And so this is an introductory session on artificial intelligence and how it applies to construction. Also, we're going to talk about some real applications of AI currently in the industry. Now, some of these may be relevant for you. Some of these might be more relevant for larger companies. But we'll kind of cover the full gamut of small scale applications that you can roll out very quickly, like Copilot and integrating that with SharePoint and some of the Office 365 applications, ChatGPT, of course. And then we're going to move into data and integration. So that's a real critical piece as well, is the data that we're putting in, kind of a garbage in, garbage out. We want to make sure that whatever data that we're depending on for the outputs, that data has integrity, it's accurate, and that the output that it's sending you is what you want. So data and integration, and also we want to make sure that any AI tools that you use integrate into your existing platforms or systems. You don't want to create more systems and platforms. You want to make sure that everything works seamlessly together. And then we'll talk a little bit about some business cases and implementation. So how are we going to roll this out? How are we going to quantify our success? If you can't really measure something, you can't really monitor something. So we want to make sure that whatever metrics we have in place to make a decision as to are we going to utilize this AI tool or not, we want to make sure that that is a measurable metric that we can later monitor and say, yes, this is something we should do, shouldn't do. This is the impact it's actually making, and have something tangible. All right. And Andrea, welcome. I'm glad you can make it. Let's get started here. I really quick just wanted to. I know we have a small group, but I'm gonna test this out. I've done this a couple of times in Zoom, so bear with me if I totally crash and burn on it. But I did want to launch a quick poll. We're gonna do about 3 polls today on this session, and so really it's just to give me a baseline of AI familiarity. And again, I know we have a small group, but I'm gonna launch the poll. And if you wouldn't mind, just put in there kind of what your current understanding of AI is in construction. So maybe you have no knowledge, basic, intermediate, advanced, expert, whatever your level is. And that's going to be helpful. Oh, well, we see we got the whole gamut here. Perfect. Okay, awesome. All right, I'm going to end the poll. So it looks like we have basic awareness, some no knowledge, basic awareness, intermediate, kind of that level. So that's perfect. That's kind of what my hypothesis was. So let me share the results there. Okay, perfect. All right, let's move on to the next. So what is AI? What it is, what it's not. This is there's a lot of course, there's a ton of different platforms out there that you can utilize, as I mentioned, from Copilot, which is the Microsoft version, to Gemini, to ChatGPT, all these different models. You have Claude, Abacus, all as many as it's too many to even talk about, different AI platforms. So basically, they're all really pulling or functioning the same across all the different platforms. They're all doing the same thing. They're just packaged a little differently, and maybe they specialize in this area or that area. It all depends on the data that they're pulling from. So AI really it's a system that learns from data sets. So it's learning from a group of data that is created by that particular company. And it utilizes that data to make predictions. It tries to recognize patterns, automate decisions, optimize processes. So it's really a software that continues to learn as you go. So it kind of learns what your business is, if that's what you're using it for. It learns what kind of information you're looking for, and it tries to optimize that information over a period of time. So it's continually learning upon the data set that it's basically training on. Now, what it's not, and it's really not a replacement for human beings. There's a saying that when they launched Copilot, when they launched the Copilot, the app for Microsoft, they said, this is called Copilot. It's not called Autopilot. It's really meant to be a partner with you in whatever it is that you're doing. So it's gonna do the things that human beings aren't really good at, but it can't replace human expertise. So again, when you get outputs from AI, whether let's say it's a proposal you're generating, or maybe it's an article that you're generating, or whatever that output might be, you still need that human being who has that expertise in that area to review it. That it's not good at judgment. Really, is not good at creativity. It's just a tool that really augments and enhances that person or that business or whoever utilizing that tool at that time. So it's definitely not a replacement for human beings, just an enhancement of the processes. So what AI is really good at, so this is, for specifically for construction, is it really helps to analyze a large data set very quickly. So if you think about, just as an example, if let's say I've submitted 50 proposals over the last 2 years, right? As you know, like every RFP is a little different. Every proposal has its nuance, and they all take you a lot of time. So what we can do though is a lot of times if we don't get a proposal, and let's say we go and we do a meeting, a debrief with the procurement officer, they're going to tell us information as to, maybe our pricing was above everyone else. Maybe we in our proposal, our expertise wasn't quite right. Maybe they just didn't like the way we wrote it. Maybe there was errors in it. It wasn't formatted properly, whatever the case may be. And you can actually build your own data set of proposals and feedback from proposals, and then in a folder, and then have AI basically review all of your proposals from, let's say, the past 50, 100, how many you have, 1,000, have many, the more the merrier, and basically ask it to analyze your existing proposal and determine if your existing proposal meets all the criteria for the successful proposal that you had in the past. And it's really good at stuff like that. Whereas that would take you forever to do that manually. AI can do that, and it's automated. Again, it doesn't have that contextual kind of understanding. So you still need to be able, it's basically just giving you suggestions, and then you can utilize, with the human brain, you can utilize what is, good information and good feedback versus what is not. And the other thing is, in this slide to talk about reality check, but AI is also not an all-encompassing tool. It's the trap that I fell into very early in the AI adoption for our company was I need to find an AI solution that will do everything for me. That doesn't exist. And so what I learned was I want to start small and find, basically prioritize what are the processes or the things that I do that are taking me the longest amount of time or giving me the most headaches, maybe, might be a part of it as well, or that are just things I don't like to do. And those are the ones I'm going to prioritize and see if I can find an AI tool and focus on either having those processes automated so I don't have to do them, or make those processes more efficient, easier, so that when I do them, when I do those processes, they don't take me as long. So that's really part of what I think you should focus on when you're implementing or thinking about how we're going to integrate AI into our businesses is start small, start focused, and then start building from there. And also, as I mentioned, AI does not replace your superintendents, doesn't replace the project managers, it doesn't replace your estimators. It really just is meant to be a tool to make sure that they are working as efficiently as possible. So we want to find that increase in productivity is really the key. That's the magic of AI and what it's meant to do. So some of the key terminology, we want to make sure that we kind of understand some of the basic, you're going to hear some of this terminology throughout your interactions with AI tools and platforms. So you might hear the term machine learning. So machine learning is really, it's an algorithm or a set of algorithms that improve over time. So as the more that you, again, that you give, when you enter a prompt into an AI tool, it's going to, of course, give you an output. Now that output may not be what you want, so you have to prompt it again to fine tune the output. And again, that output may not be what you want. And so you fine tune and fine tune until you kind of get the output that you're looking for. And over a period of time, the through machine learning, that algorithm will start to know the outputs that you prefer versus the ones that you didn't prefer. And so over time, the idea is that the outputs are going to be more and more accurate as you want them to be. And that's really one of the things that we implemented. And when we submit proposals for CEI, we've implemented or built out an infrastructure, a process where we utilize AI in a lot of respects for proposal review. We want to make sure that it gives us an executive summary. We want to make sure that the proposal that we submit that actually answers all the questions that are required in the RFP. So it gives me an assessment there. And then we'll utilize an improvement portion of it. So we take that feedback, we call continuous improvement, and what we closing the feedback loop. We take that feedback from that's generated from the proposal review, implement that into the second draft, pull that into AI, ask it again, did we answer all the questions? Yes, this looks good. And then we kind of know that we have a nice finished product. So the machine learning, as we do that more and more, what ends up happening is our first draft proposals are more and more accurate and more specific to the RFP. So again, it's kind of as you go through it, it get better and better. Then you have something called deep learning. So that's really an advanced machine learning processes. That one is more that integrates more than just a text output. This might be something that's utilizing for video. If you have screening, or on a job site, you have surveillance cameras or cameras that are monitoring, they can review and make sure that workers have hard hats or safety vest on or wearing safety goggles. There's a lot more advanced tools out there that go beyond just machine learning, but have more deep learning and things like that. And then you have this concept called natural language processing. And that's really what you're utilizing a lot through like ChatGPT. So in that case, that's where you're going to be, the computers can understand and generate human language, vocabulary. We do that a lot for contract analysis to see if a contract is favorable to us or not. If there's red flags, we can find out very quickly and understand, can extract key terms, things that might not be in our best interest in a contract. So we at least know about them in advance, as opposed to sitting there and reading. Ultimately, we do read the contract, but it kind of gives us a guide to make sure that we're on the right track and we're not missing anything. All right. So kind of some of the advanced we mentioned briefly, like the computer vision. So that's the visual, the ability to interpret visual information. I live in Miami, so every time I go to the airport, they're building the new soccer stadium by the airport, and at night you can see all of these camera systems that are set up, these mobile units where they monitor all the camera systems all throughout the. It's a huge, huge project, a vast space. So you have all these camera systems working in conjunction with each other. They're monitoring workers as they come and go. They're able to see who's on the job site, that they're properly protected with PPE when needed. And it is a whole host of different things that particular huge construction site implements in terms of AI tools. So you can get very complicated and you can get very complex, or you can just be very simple. The other one's predictive analysis. So which I love because I think that the benefit of collecting all of this data, like why collect all this data if we're not going to utilize it, right? So the benefit of utilizing it is then you can use that data to predict future outcomes. So AI is excellent at that, and that's one of the reasons now we have a way to store that data and actually utilize it. And then the other thing, which is great even for small businesses, is this concept of digital twin. So what digital twin is basically a virtual replica of a job site that you're working on. So larger contractors or firms may already have that done. They might have done that through a drone program or some other platform that they utilize cameras that scan 365 scans, et cetera, kind of depending on the project. But those are great because you can then see a digital version of the job site, and you can also track progress of a job site as you go through. I know it's not necessarily for road work and bridge work so much as when I was scanning, you could scan projects. Let's say you're doing a renovation of a building or a new build on a building, and you did a digital twin, you had scanning, you came in, let's say every month and got a new scan. You could actually see through the digital twin the progress of the project. You could find where maybe now that pipes or wires or different components are covered up by drywall or different things are concealed, you can actually see them now, in real time through the digital twin. You can see, okay, that what's behind that wall is this without having to break that open. So I love the idea of digital twin as well. And so construction specific AI examples. So AI is really whether you think you're using AI or not, you probably are in some capacity. They're already happening. There's so many different options for AI tools. That's kind of the bad part of AI is that there's so many options now. It's a little overwhelming. So again, we're going to start small. But some of the things here and now, again, for smaller firms, these may or may not be as important. I just wanted to kind of bring these up. Autonomous equipment, predictive maintenance. These are things that larger firms are utilizing on a daily basis, and it's really helping, again, with their profit margins and their efficiency. So they're proactively, repairing equipment before it breaks so that those machines are always on board. And Janelle, with your trucking, you probably, you don't want the machine to break down in the middle of a haul or trying to deliver something to a client. So design optimization, progress tracking, again, AI is perfect for this. So it can do different design components. So if you're looking at, let's say you're trying to value engineer something, maybe we could use a less expensive material and still give us the outcome that we want. Optimizing costs. Are you subject to building codes? Are you in compliance with those? So all these different AI tools that help you through that, depending on the scope of work or the business that you're in. Progress monitoring, as I mentioned, 360 degree cameras, drone capturing. There's a company called Drone Deploy, which they have a podcast, which I'm addicted to. So it's always giving information on the latest technology and drones. And it's not really that expensive. I mean, if it's something that would help you, but it really helps to monitor job sites, monitor progress, give superintendents visibility through the project. So really encourage you to take a look at that if that's relevant for you. And then, of course, safety monitoring, which we talked about, just to make sure that, the people that are on the job site are able to, that they have their proper PPE, that they're not behaving in unsafe ways, they're not doing activities that might cause injuries. So saving that money on the back end on injuries, workers' comp, and all those different things, insurance premiums going up, et cetera. Now, design and pre-construction. So these are AI application focused on just that pre-construction side of it. So design and estimating, scheduling, and a lot of times, these mistakes that happen are mistakes that happen in the design phase. So being able to identify those early is really critical, and kind of optimize those plans in advance of the project before you kind of get that shovel in the ground. So for some of these AI uh, platforms or functions, we're focusing here just a little bit on the quantity takeoff. So you'll see, whether there's again a million different estimating platforms out there that you can utilize. Primavera being one of the more common ones, but most of these tools that you use actually integrate their own AI agent or AI bot or some sort of AI assistant within the application itself. So when you have access to those platforms, they can be kind of expensive. So part of that is that you're getting some of the AI functionality, but also a lot of these things you can do again with low cost options through Copilot, ChatGPT, SharePoint, where you can store all your data. You can kind of create your own little your language model, and all of the data is in one place. And then the AI, a less expensive AI is just pulling that data. And it's really just about building your processes. What information do you want to pull from it? How do you want that information interpreted? And then what do you want the output to be? And again, some stuff for site analysis, selection. Again, AI, there's a lot of different AI tools for that as well. If you're, looking for the right site to build a project, or if you need to go out and identify any potential barriers for a roadwork project or bridge project that you're considering. Um, some clash detection and cost estimation. So again, these are different things that what AI can do. Is the design not necessarily compatible with what other subcontractors are doing on the site, or maybe it's not compatible or not accurate with the actual job site conditions. So we call that kind of clash detection, and it can help you to get a resolution. Cost estimation. This is probably, I would say, the cost estimation part of it is going to be between that and the scheduling. I would say is going to be the most valuable for construction, that I could see AI like having a measurable impact in the amount of time that it takes to do cost estimates, submit proposals, and then of course build out these schedules. And we'll talk about scheduling in a minute. And then risk assessment. So do we know what we're signing? Are our contract documents solid? Do we know what site conditions are? We can identify scope gaps, highlight conditions that have maybe caused problems in the past. So if this project is in the winter and there's going to be snow and there's potential ice, is the site going to be accessible? Are we going to be able to, how's our schedule going to look? What risks do we incur by being delayed on this project if we have some sort of weather incident or things like that? So AI is a great tool for that as well. A second poll here, and we'll just launch this second one. So the second poll I wanted to kind of let me go back here and launch this one. So this is kind of the priority area, and this is just out of curiosity. So if you could implement AI in one area immediately, and this is just to, again, identify, is it safety and risk management? Is it cost estimation, budget control, schedule management, productivity, quality control and inspections, design and pre-construction planning, or equipment and resource management? These are the things that, in my experience, we've seen that most people utilize AI, or these are kind of the priority areas for them. So feel free to answer there. Looks like we've got safety and risk management and cost estimation and budget control. And again, I kind of put those at the top because those were, again, my hypothesis was that those would be the ones that would be the most popular. I'm going to end the poll here, and then we can share the results there. And so it kind of helps us too. So again, as supportive services for all of you, we want to be here as a resource as well. So if you're in the midst of looking at different AI solutions for, let's say, safety risk management, or you want to try to find a platform that can help you with cost estimation and budget, let us know. So we're happy to try to assist you as best we can, and that kind of navigating these platforms and seeing what we can do. So I appreciate y'all participating in that. Okay. And then for project management, we want to make sure that we're keeping the projects on track and on budget. So really, project management, I would say, again, in conjunction with the cost estimation and the scheduling, this is really where you see a lot of high value ROI, so return on investment for AI tools, and it can really impact the company as a whole in a significantly good way. So some of the aspects of AI platforms that you could utilize involve enhancements to what they call dynamic scheduling. So that's going to be where you're continuously reviewing the schedule based upon the input you're putting in, or the subcontractors or the other contractors on the project doing their work on time. If not, the schedule can in real time be updated, as opposed to maybe checking. You do a 2 week look ahead and then you go back a week to see kind of what's going on, and maybe you don't identify these delays very quickly or fast enough, and so then you just become very reactive instead of proactive. So with AI scheduling tools, you have the ability to be more proactive and kind of get in front of issues, understand if there's going to be resource issues, if projects are falling, certain scopes of work are falling behind. What's that going to, first of all, why are they falling behind? And then how is that going to impact the overall project schedule? And then are there ways that we can adjust the schedule a little bit to give that subcontractor a little more time without impacting the rest of the project? Of course, resource optimization. We want to make sure we're allocating labor properly. Do we have too much idle time in our crews? Is our equipment sitting? Are we storing materials properly? Are we delivering it properly? Do we have it coming to the project site at the right time? So this can definitely help companies that have multiple job sites operating at one time. And then we have this concept of automated reporting. So again, data is only as good as our ability to utilize it. So I love AI in the sense that if you generate a report, it can be very thorough, very thoughtful. Report doesn't take that long. It's pulling from the data set that you have, and then giving you sort of an executive summary. So we're able to make decisions, actionable decisions, very quickly, much more quickly than we used to. And also, it's going to tell us, again, issues that you might be having with project schedule, maybe with cost estimations or more accurate, and all that will be identified quickly and to you in a way that's very easy to absorb. And then predictive analysis, performance tracking. So we've kind of already talked about this a little bit, but systems that analyze kind of project performance against historical data. And I think as a small business, that's one thing is a major challenge for all of us, is we just don't have enough time, right? It'd be great to be able to have a post-project audit or review. Every time we finish a project, we're able to meet, and we're able to meet as a team and talk about things we did well, things that maybe didn't go well, utilize the AI data that we generated to try to discuss that and how we can improve and be better next time, and then compare that outcome with what did we estimate. So our estimates are actuals versus our estimates. We want to make sure that those are in line. A lot of times we don't have the ability to do that. So with AI, you can set up a process where really that happens automatically. So it can automatically kind of generate a report, a post-project report, or maybe if it's even a post-RFP report, you don't get the project, you can understand why. And also the subcontractor performance tracking. So we want to make sure that, if we are a prime on the project, or if this is our project and we have some other subcontractors doing some of the work, we want to be able to identify that any potential issues there. So are they adhering to their schedule? Or is their quality being maintained at a high level? All of those things, and then the AI platform that we have in place can help identify and sort of float to the top any issues before they become major problems. Excuse me. Kind of moving on here. So we want to protect, obviously, the most important asset, which is the people. So Our next session is going to be very specific to safety and sort of protecting the people on the project job sites and how AI plays a role in that. We're going to talk about that kind of briefly here, but AI-powered safety systems. So that's the 24/7 monitoring. We talked already about the camera systems, instant hazard detection. So I've seen systems where it scans the job site on of course, all the time because it's AI, right? It doesn't need to sleep, doesn't have to blink, it doesn't have to go take a break. And so if there's an unsafe condition that arises, which that's kind of how these accidents happen, is someone might drop a 2x4 or a form or something or a tool, and they don't realize they dropped it, and that becomes a trip hazard, and then someone trips and falls and injures themselves. Or if there's a railing that suddenly gets detached and you don't notice it right away, well, these systems notice those things right away, so it'll identify unsafe conditions as they occur 24/7, and then alert the team to those things. So again, the end result you're hoping is a reduction in incidents, accidents, and which will result in a lower premium, fewer legal claims, fewer claims of workers' comp, and all of those things. So this kind of predictive hazard detection is really good. And the PPE compliance, and we already talked about that. Are the teams wearing hard hats? Are they wearing the right vest? Are they wearing the proper PPE? Um, and again, the real-time hazard detection, so fall protection violations. Now, again, with smaller firms, you may not need this level of AI, but it's good to know that they're out there because some of the project sites that you're on will have these things in place. So it's important too to understand that first of all, this technology exists, and then if you're on a project site where these things are being utilized, of course you want to be in compliance with that and to make sure that your team is working as safely as possible. And this just kind of, again, goes a little more deeper into the predictive safety analytics, some of the ergonomic risk assessments. These are probably for larger companies, right? A mom and pop's not going to necessarily be tracking, lifting patterns and things like that. But larger firms could do that. But again, if you're on a big project site, it's good to know that these things exist. Environmental monitoring. So if that to me is really important because we have, obviously project sites are loud, they're dusty, they're noisy, can be hot. And some of them have, very toxic gases or materials on site. So it's good to have these kind of safety protocols in place if you're a large enough firm to be able to implement those. And so a little bit here about the data requirements. So I spent a little more time on this because I think this is really an important, especially if you're building what I call like a homegrown sort of AI system. So again, if you're utilizing ChatGPT, SharePoint, Copilot, those are probably your less expensive options, but very highly effective, especially for small firms. So the key there is if you're building kind of your own data set, you want to make sure that the data that you're putting in is good, accurate data. So as an example, I would say, let's say you're building a I don't know, safety manual, right? So you want it to be very specific to your company. So you're going to be building a data set around what you want to see in terms of safety requirements for your company. So it could be the PPE requirements, it could be requirements for working safe, like different procedures, tool usage, whatever the case may be, whatever your specific safety protocol or safety system is. And then it's going to pull from your existing, maybe you have existing standard operating procedures that you already kind of have that are scattered around different things. They're not necessarily unified or combined. So you're putting all these things in to the folder so the AI can analyze all these documents and then pull out a cohesive, let's say one single document, single source of truth, right? That then can be used as a training tool for your new hires that are coming up, or maybe just as a refresher for existing staff, annually or however you want to do that. And the problem is if you're putting in bad data, let's say you put in SOPs that are outdated or old or have been replaced by newer SOPs, right? The AI doesn't know that. So it's just going to pull basically and think, well, all this stuff is what you want me to review. So I'm just going to pull this final version of what a safety protocol should look like from all this data that you've told me to analyze. And so it's kind of that garbage in, garbage out. So if that data is not necessarily accurate, then it's going to pull out data that's not going to be accurate. So we want to make sure that we start with at a good starting point, which is good data, that it's being evaluated, and then build upon that. So if you can get that part of it right, then the outputs, you're going to start at a very high level of accuracy. And then again, with that machine learning, and it's going to continually to improve based upon what you tell it are good outputs. You can build a very robust system again for very little. I mean, whatever the cost of ChatGPT and SharePoint are per month, not very expensive. So but some of the things that, again, that AI is really good at is taking large volumes of data and reviewing it very quickly, right? I mean, I read at a snail's pace. My mother could read a book a day. To me, I would read a book a month. I did not have, I don't have that brain. Some people do, but now I got AI. So now it can analyze a document in literally 2 or 3 seconds, get an executive summary. So it's great at evaluating large volumes of data. That's really good for RFPs for sure. Some of these RFPs are extremely long, or these proposals that we produce are very long. So we want to make sure that we have a tool that can help do that. And then data quality, we talked a little bit like that. We want to make sure that the data that, again, the data set that's being utilized is by and large accurate. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's got to be in a good state. And then the outcomes again will be the better the inputs and the data that's there, the better the outputs that you're going to get. And then I would say bias in training data. This is also really important. So a lot of times we have bad habits. Maybe we continually underestimate certain scopes of work. If we utilize that data for future estimates, then the AI doesn't necessarily know. It's just going to continue to replicate those mistakes, right? So part of I think the continuous improvement for AI is not just on the data side of it, it's also on the human side of it. We want to make sure that we continue to make our inputs more accurate, and so that their outputs are more accurate as well. But we want to make sure that we review that data set to make sure that there's not data in there that's continually giving us bad outputs. And then, of course, security. That's a big part of what we do as well. When we build anything with AI, if we're building a proposal, if we're building a procedure, an SOP, if we're anything that we produce from an AI platform, we want to make sure that it's secure. A lot of times, and this is something that each platform will be different potentially. It just depends on the platform that you're utilizing. But some of these large language models, right, like ChatGPT, and some of they're basically, their data set is basically like the whole of the internet. Right? So you're talking like a really big data set there. And it's not always accurate. We talked about that data integrity, not necessarily, right? So it's going to be pulling information from that large data set. But also one thing to be aware of is if you're putting any of your content into, let's say, a ChatGPT, all that becomes basically public domain in the sense that other people's queries into chat can now be pulling data from your information, right? So there are tools that put guardrails on that so that you can sort of pull from the broader data set, but the stuff that you import, like files and documents and things like that, don't necessarily go out into the domain so that other folks can be pulling from that data. So that's something that a lot of people don't realize. So it's not that people are stealing your data, they're just utilizing that data in a way for their own purposes. So you want to be sure that you understand that, and that if that's what's happening, that you're okay with that. And if you're not okay with that, that you utilize a platform that does have those guardrails up. And then privacy and security, of course, all of that, you want to make sure that that you have the basics there. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the integration, the workflow integrations, and how do we operate with the different tools that we have. So again, AI is only as good, first of all, as the outputs, I think, right? The data sets that are the inputs, the outputs that you get are going to be dependent on that. It's also, you don't want to continue to add different platforms that are sort of on their own little island, within your company, you want to make sure that the tools that you're using function together. For me, less is more in terms of platforms. So although there's not an all-encompassing AI product, eventually maybe in 2, 3, 5 years, however long it takes, there'll be one AI solution that can run your construction business. That's probably where we're heading. But until then, we want to make sure that whatever platforms that we're using, that we're thoughtful about, how is this going to integrate into what I do? A perfect example would be, okay, if I have, let's say, Office 365, that's what I'm using. I'm utilizing Word, I utilize PowerPoint, I utilize for presentations, I utilize, I don't know, the Excel, right, for my spreadsheets. So the AI that Microsoft has is the Copilot. So can integrate within all of those platforms, right? It can integrate within SharePoint, which is where data storage platform for Microsoft. So all of those are a common platform, right? So Microsoft has all of those platforms, all these different tools within the platform. So they all kind of talk to each other. Copilot integrates with all of them. And so that I can basically have Copilot say, okay, I want you to search this document, this Word document, this Excel document, let's say in this PowerPoint document, I want you to give me a review of, these items. It can pull from all those different things as opposed to having to have a different tool for Excel, a different tool for Microsoft, for PowerPoint, a different tool for Word. And also for your emails, the Outlook is another one. It can search for Word documents or attachments within your email system. So then when we talk about integration, that's kind of what we're talking about is one tool, one AI agent or tool that can work across all the different platforms within your business. So if you're starting from scratch, that's actually great, right? Because now you can build from the ground up. But if you already have existing platforms in place, you want to make sure that there's the ability to integrate whatever the AI solution you have will be able to talk to your existing systems so that it can utilize all the data that's being collected across all those different platforms. So we call that basically an API. So an API is an application programming interface. And so that's the ability for different tools to talk to each other in terms of like software. So for instance, we use a CRM called HubSpot. So HubSpot is one of many CRMs. There's another one called Salesforce. There's tons of different CRMs. But the CRM for HubSpot is great because it has a lot of API integration with all kinds of different tools. So it integrates seamlessly with our Monday.com, which is our workflow management system. It integrates seamlessly with Teams, which is what we use obviously for team chatting and phone meetings and different things like that. And it all connects those. So within HubSpot, we're able to integrate all these different tools. So you want to make sure that whatever solution you come up with has that API connectivity. User adoption, that's always tough as well because you have a lot of existing workflows and change comes very difficult to the construction industry. So you want to make sure that you identify what those barriers could be. Is this AI solution going to actually help our current workflows? And then if so, is our staff going to be on board? How can we train them to make them kind of believers, right, in the adoption of the new one? And then mobile accessibility is also big, especially in construction, because very few of our crews obviously are in the office, right? So they're always on the job site. Things happen. It's fast moving, fast paced. So you want to make sure that you have that mobile accessibility when at all possible. And again, just kind of on the concept of standards and change management, are the platforms that we're utilizing, if we have existing platforms that we use, are they up to the standards? I think for small businesses, not as big a deal. But in some cases, right? I mean, is this solution going to be acceptable to the prime or to a sub or to let's say a state DOT or whatever the case may be? You just want to make sure that whatever solution you have is going to work across all your different stakeholders. And then, like we mentioned, change management. So we're going to have to train. It's inevitable. And I typically, for any company that's integrating new AI or implementing new AI technologies where maybe none have existed before, is see if you can find sort of that AI champion, someone who's very probably the most tech savvy is going to be someone you would want to kind of spearhead a project like that. And really for technology adoption across an organization, small, medium, or large, it's everybody has to believe in the what the final outputs are going to be, and that it's actually going to make things easier, not harder. And also, you're probably going to run into some people that, they have difficult workflows in place because they think of that as like job security. Well, if they lose me, then this company would collapse. But that's not really how a scalable, well-run business functions. And it's important to educate employees who might be doing that, to let them understand that we're not doing this to replace you. We're doing this to, first of all, leverage your expertise even more, because the more that you're mired in administrative tasks that don't return money, don't drive revenue, that means that's less time for you to go out and generate more business, or to reconnect with clients, or to review proposals for better accuracy. There's a lot of different things that are really talented, subject matter expert employee teams can do outside of just administrative tasks that can be done by AI platforms. So change management's a big part of what you're going to run into inevitably. Now, some of the cost benefit analysis, kind of what is the return on investment? What metrics do we want to put in place? These are all going to be specific to your business. So these are just suggestions. Nothing here is set in stone. So just some different ideas. So can we come up with direct cost savings? Right? Is this going to save us? Is this going to save us in reductions in rework, labor hours, administrative tasks? I would say yes. I would say for administrative tasks and labor hours, 100%, you're going to find efficiencies in AI if you pick the right platform. And then, of course, your ROIs. Sometimes that's easier said than done. I find it kind of difficult sometimes to put a number. Obviously, if you're reducing your direct costs a certain percentage or a certain amount, right, that will equate into a percentage of savings. Time savings is if you're tracking, let's say, how long proposals typically take you. Let's say a proposal typically takes you 4 hours, or an estimate 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever the case may be. And you can utilize and you can cut that, let's say, in half. Well, that's a measurable savings, right? Now it's just a matter of, okay, now I can increase number of proposals. If we can cut our proposal time in half, we can double our amount of proposals, which should mean a higher number of projects being won. So those are some of the metrics to kind of think through, and this risk reduction as well, right? So are we entering into better contracts for us? Are we avoiding some of the same pitfalls we did in the past? All of those things are important as well. Okay. Oh, bear with me 1 second here. And then some of the productivity gains and implementation costs. Really do productivity gains, like we said, are we increasing our workflows? Is our crews producing at a higher rate? Is our equipment being utilized at a higher rate? All of those things, again, are going to be specific to your business. Competitive advantage, again, those are kind of intangible benefits, but I would suggest that even though something doesn't necessarily like jump off the page off of profit and loss, you can tell when your teams are working more efficiently, they're being more productive, you're going to see an increase in revenues. There's just no question about it. And also, I think you're going to have higher client satisfaction, right? So if your team's running efficiently, their quality is really great, you're delivering on deadlines, your communications are really high, you're getting back to clients quickly with high quality, let's say, quotes and estimates. All of that's going to result in an increase in revenue, and hopefully an increase in that bottom line. And AI has the ability to kind of set the stage for that. So, and then implementation, what are the different costs for doing it? I think this is also something to think through. I mean, you could spend all of your money on different AI tools, which would not be a good idea, right? So again, when we talked in the beginning, we want to start small. Let's identify those areas that are our biggest pain points. Maybe it's proposal writing, estimating, scheduling. Maybe it's stuff that's a headache for us. We don't like to do the HR stuff, and maybe we don't like to really read through those contracts line by line by line, right? So there's certain things like, what are the things that we want to utilize? Maybe ChatGPT is the tool that you start with. Maybe Copilot's the tool that you start with. Totally fine. And you just start there, and then you can start to think through, okay, what are the other pain points? Are we able to find a solution that integrates with our existing systems? Very critical. And then if so, okay, what does that cost? And is that worth it for us? Do we think we're going to actually get a return on that? If we spend $10,000 a year on AI tools, we want that to be giving us back more than $10,000 in additional revenue that we would not have otherwise. Otherwise, that's really not an investment that you obviously would want to make. So you got to kind of think through the different costs as well. All right, so kind of a little, and again, the link to I'm going to repost the link really quickly in case there's some people that hopped on after we did the initial. Give me one second, because it's important to have a link to the presentation. So this presentation link, that way you don't have to take any notes or anything, but really want you to have this kind of this AI adoption roadmap. So this will be something specific to your business. What is it that you want to do? How do you want to implement this? So you want to have a successful implementation for whatever AI solution that you choose. So these are just some things to think about with your implementation plan. So you want to identify your pain points, which we talked about. What is the most pressing things that we want AI to solve for us? We want to assess the data readiness. So do we have what data do we have? Is it good quality? Are there gaps that we need to fill? So you would want to make sure that you review the data that you're going to be kind of training this platform on. Then you want to start with the pilot project. So pick one. I say pick one project and see how that goes. See what that process looks like, and then you can implement a larger scale rollouts later on. Select the right partners. So again, that's what we're here to help you with at CEI. As a supportive services vendor, we want to make sure that we're kind of your sounding board, right? So if we don't know the answer, we'll try to find the answer for you, point you in the right direction. With AI implementation tools, like, you just give us a call, let us know. We can help kind of review it, see what might make sense, what might not make sense, any red flags, et cetera. But you want to make sure that you pick that right system, and then build internal champions. We talked about who's our tech savvy team member. Is it going to be, again, with scalability for a business as the owner? We were all used to doing all the work, but that's not necessarily scalable, right? So we want to make sure that we're utilizing our team members, our resources that we have to do these rollouts, and then measure and iterate. Iterate is obviously you're going to be constantly improving whatever solution that you have. So, but anything that you can't measure, you can't monitor. So we want to make sure that the metrics that we have are measurable metrics, and that we're able to make a determination: is this AI tool giving us the ROI that we want? All right. And the really quick on the third poll, I just launched this one really quick, and then we're going to wrap it up here. So this one's going to be the biggest implementation concern. So as you're thinking through, implementation of an AI solution, what are the things that would concern you, whether it's your business or the organization that you work within? Is it going to be cost, ROI? Is it data quality, availability, integration? Some of the things that we talked about, workforce resistance, privacy. Don't know where to start. That's totally fine too. But it sounds like data quality and availability. Awesome. Okay, perfect. Getting some good. Lisa, if you want to, yeah, sorry, I just see that in the chat now. If you want the a copy of the PowerPoint, just shoot me an email, and I'll put my email in the chat. And I can send you, I think it's going to be a PDF, but I can send you that. No problem. Awesome. All right. I'm going to end the poll really quick and just share the results. Yeah. So I mean, the whole gamut, right? Cost, data, quality, integration. So that's awesome. So these are things that we use these polls to also come up with future courses and things like that. So this is super helpful. So this helps me to kind of focus on what we're going to be doing in the future. So some key takeaways, and then we're going to kind of wrap up here, is obviously AI is here, right? So start small, but then you can kind of think bigger rollouts. The data integrity is going to be really key. So make sure that whatever data you're training the system on is going to be has integrity, right? So it's the data that you want so that it can compile it. So garbage in, garbage out. People drive the success. So make sure that you pick the right partners, that the people on your team are bought into it. And then, obviously take action. Start small. Start with a, how can we utilize Copilot to make our email messages more friendly? Or, how can we when we do meetings with our teams, can we utilize, Microsoft Teams? They have a great tool for what do they call it? I can't remember the name. It's basically like a transcription, and essentially we'll take notes of your meeting and then call out and send you a summary of action items. I love that tool, right? Because then it gives me something actionable action items, the things that the team needs to do, and then I can pull that into my Monday board and assign tasks. I love that. But you want to make sure it also that we're going to be maintaining classes. We do this class. We have 24 of these a year, so we basically do these alternating Wednesdays. And then, of course, there's all kinds of conferences and trade shows and local community events and things related to AI. So you want to make sure that you take advantage of that. So our next session is going to be Wednesday, January 28th, so noon to 1. And the registration link is here. You can also scan the QR code for that. And then the registration link should take you when you have the copy of the presentation, you'll be able to link straight to the registration page. So we'd love to see you on that particular class. And then also just want to thank you all for joining us. Really appreciate you participating today. It was a great session. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, CEI is here for you. So there's our number, our email. Please scan the QR code. That's a quick survey, kind of tells us how we did, things that we can improve, things that you like, things you didn't like. So we just always appreciate the opportunity to see everybody and to have you participate today. So anything we can do for you, please let us know. And with that, I will sign off and just again say thank you, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you all so much.